She's Marcy,
And he's Goose.
and we're
A couple of super fans.
All right, so we are here today getting excited about Captain America Brave New World. We'll be talking about news and speculating about what might happen. We'll get into some of what's being talked about online, and we'll wrap the show with a little bit of a game called Will They Cameo? But first, we just watched The Incredible Hulk and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus to get ready for this movie. That was really good. I'm glad we did that rewatch.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while since I've watched The Incredible Hulk, so I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah. To be fair, they treated it like it didn't exist for a while until after Endgame. Then they started kind of bringing it back. Other than Thaddeus Ross, you haven't really had any references to anything in The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, well, what about She-Hulk?
Yeah, that's post Endgame.
Oh, post Endgame. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think so.
You can be forgiven for not remembering everything in The Incredible Hulk. What's interesting to me is The Incredible Hulk is the second project of the Infinity Saga, and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the second project of the Multiverse Saga. And they're kind of, those are the, probably, I mean, there's obviously a lot of history that's going into Captain America Brave New World, but it seems like those are the two main projects, with Incredible Hulk giving you everything about Thaddeus Ross, his origins, his motivations. I mean, all the way back then, like, he's trying to create super soldiers for himself. And then with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier being the last place that we saw the Falcon, and that show really illustrates his journey of taking on the mantle of Captain America Brave New World, so that this movie didn't have to be about that. They got it out of the way in the show, and I say out of the way, it's a really good show. It's phenomenal action every episode. They really, really drive the point home of why Sam Wilson specifically is the only one that deserves the Captain America mantle after Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the that speech at the end, I'm glad we rewatched it, because I thought that speech in my own memory, partly because of how people talked about it online, I was like, oh yeah, that wasn't a very strong speech, but other than that, I really liked all the ways things wrapped up. But watching it again, I'm like, that was a really strong speech. Like, people treat it as if all he's doing is saying "do better" to the senator, who's honestly a total dick the whole time, and he is honestly kind of a villain in his own right. He's just willing to send all these people back to where? I mean, it's a really complicated, nuanced situation. This is the blip. People disappeared for 5 years, and then people came back, and this global redistribution group is trying to redistribute the people who stayed or something. It's kind of a convoluted situation. It's a messy. I mean, can you imagine if half the world disappeared for 5 years and then they all just poofed back? Like, imagine just someone just popping in while you're taking a shower. They were taking a shit when they got snapped. You've moved in. You're taking a shower, and all of a sudden everybody gets snapped back, and there's someone taking a shit, probably losing their minds, probably losing their shit at this point. While you're trying to shower, you slip and fall, hurt your head, get a cut on it, and then maybe you get some Banner blood, the way that the leader did. He's got Hulk on the brain.
That would be crazy. Like, what if you were in a plane or something and you just appeared like in the air,
Just
or just
falling.
yeah, like
Oh
you're
my god.
just, well, that would be crazy.
Yeah, the blip is a whole thing, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the first show post Endgame to try to take that on. And to their credit, I think they illustrate that it's going to be a messy situation. So you've got the Flag Smashers and their super soldier serum. You've got Bucky Barnes, obviously, coping with his own issues from having the super soldier serum and what Hydra did to his mind. And then with John Walker kind of being the poster child for the military. He's like basically everything that we would think we would want in a Captain America, but it goes to his head real fast. He snaps. It gets dark.
Yeah, and the second watch through, I actually ended up liking his character a little bit more
Yeah,
too.
I felt the same way. I'm like even more looking forward to seeing him in Thunderbolts now.
Yeah.
I want him to have a redemption arc because the second watch through it it's easier to see he really is just doing his best with what he has. His best isn't good enough. Kind of like Sam says to the senator at the end. They're like, "Well, you need to do better, Senator." It's like, well, Walker, you need to do better too. Like,
Yeah.
and he kind of gives that nod to him at the end. So it's like they're kind of cool with each other. Discount Cap and real Cap.
Yeah.
And I love the line from Bucky Barnes. It's so self-aware of the writers, and he's the right character to deliver it after um, after Sam Wilson's speech, where he says, "I was texting. All I heard was black man and stars and stripes," and I just laughed so hard because, especially after having seen how people talked about it online, like there was a subsect of people that were just mad that it was Black Captain America instead of Bucky Barnes taking the shield because in the comic books he gets the shield first.
Yeah.
And on that note, if somebody ever says, "Well, in the comics, blah 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 blah," that's exactly what you should hear. Is just blah 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 blah. Because these are the movies; they're doing their own thing. Like unless it's in the context of this is a fun fact from the comics, like with Screen Crush and New Rock Stars and their breakdowns of all the Easter eggs from the comics. And at the end of the day, like we want the core characters to be represented from the comics, but they're gonna need to be switched around for the big screen. They're gonna need to be reworked to fit in this storyline where they're all sometimes existing in tandem in ways that they didn't in the comics. So it's a different medium, it's a different story, it's a fresh, it's its own universe. So I've never understood either like people wanting a direct retelling of what was told in the comics. I'm like, well, but if you're a comic book fan, maybe that'd be fun for you. But also, would it? Like, that's just going to be a story you literally just read, and you just want the exact same story. You don't want any twists or turns or new interpretations, and that's what makes the superhero genre so unique. Is when someone says, "Well, in the comics, which ones? Which comics?" There's been so
Oh
many
my
different
god.
comic runs for
So
every
many.
storyline. But I digress. We're here about the movies and the TV shows. We are super fans of the movies and TV. We're starting to get into the comics, but just barely. I'm reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and it's pretty fun. I see what people like about these things. But let's get into it. We've got the IMDb's that we're going to dive into for Captain America Brave New World. Sink our teeth into it. You've got we're going to start with the director. Director is Julius Ona. Let's see. What has he done in the past? Known for Loose? Is it Lucy? Loose? Lucy Lucy? Luce? How would you say that? Loose?
Yeah, I guess. Loose?
The Cloverfield Paradox?
Oh, okay. A lot of people didn't like that one, but I liked it.
What about Avicii Broken Arrows?
Never heard of it.
The Girl is in Trouble? I don't know any of these either. I'm
Hmm.
looking through this list. Um, well, he's got one movie titled something that I'm just not going to say. And then for writing credits, he's also on there as a screenplay writer. So he helped with he pitched in the writing department. Other than that, we've got his co-writer Peter Glanz, and then it looks like there's a trio: Rob Edwards, Malcolm Spellman, and Dallin Mousson. Mousson? And please, anybody correct me in the comments if I'm saying things wrong. I wish that they doesn't matter where you're from. There's going to be names that are hard to pronounce, and I wish that IMDb, being an international website, would just like put the pronunciations of their names right there. Cast and crew: we've got Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, Danny Ramirez, and that's going to be our top three. So Anthony Mackie obviously is Captain America. Harrison Ford, everybody knows him. He's President Thaddeus Ross. That was previously played by
William Hurt, I believe.
William Hurt.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I just for some reason that didn't feel right. Oh, I was thinking John Hurt. He was the doctor or the non-doctor, the war doctor in Doctor Who. But anyway, that's it.
Oh, right, right.
And then there's Danny Ramirez, who is Joaquin Torres, or otherwise known as the new Falcon, as seen at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's left with the wings, and then in like the trailers, they show him fixing him up. And then we've got Shara Haas as Ruth Bat Saraf, a character that has the alter ego known as, is it Saber or Sabre?
I'm not familiar with that character. I don't know.
We'll get into it more later. Carl Lumbly was also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, introduced as Isaiah Bradley, who was another Captain America in the past, who was kind of shunned by the U.S. government when it came time for memorials. And so he gets this. He actually has, even though he doesn't have a ton of screen time, I think he has a really great arc in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where he's on the outs. He's really spiteful towards everything that happened to him, rightfully so. And then he finally gets recognized at the end of the show there, and he has to take, I think it's his grandson that's with him to that memorial. And I'm like, God, that's a powerful moment. And then they show him in this trailer for Captain America and Brave New World, and it looks like he's being triggered, kind of like the Winter Soldier would be, to then attack President Ross, President Thunderbolt, and then they show him locked up, and my heart is already breaking for him because he does not deserve to be done dirty like that. So I'm hoping that the trailer is like a big misdirect, and he's actually not going to be done like that. But at the same time, if that character is important directly to Sam Wilson now in many respects. So from a character driving point, I can see why it would be there for the story. I just can't wait to be surprised.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he does do those things on purpose. He was imprisoned and experimented on for, 30 years? So, yeah, he's a little jaded.
Oh, so you think maybe he's just like, now fuck this. President Ross needs to be taken down before he's...
Maybe, yeah. I mean, President Ross, he doesn't seem like he's such a good guy. So
No, yeah. I mean, we've seen Thaddeus Ross all the way back since The Incredible Hulk. He's an asshole through and through. Like, there's not a single movie that he's not, like, an antagonist.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So that would be interesting. So I guess that's our first speculation. Is Isaiah Bradley doing this on purpose, or has he been somehow mind controlled, like a sleeper agent? We'll have to come back to that after we watch it. Then you've got Samuel Stearns is going to be in this. Tim Blake Nelson, I referenced that, the Hulk juice in the brains. We saw that in The Incredible Hulk, that scene where he gets hurt when he's trying to do things with the Abomination, and he accidentally, well, not accidentally, he like pretty intentionally creates the Abomination.
Yeah.
He knocks his head, and there's a cut, and then blood drips from one of the samples into his cut, and his head starts hulking out. And that is the character of the leader. That apparently in the comic books, he's got this big green head, and he's like super smart, like super duper intelligent. But yeah, like to the point that he's got extra senses and stuff. Who knows? Who knows what he's got for powers? But and this is where we always remind ourselves, suspension of disbelief. It's a superhero franchise. But my brain initially I'm not a physiologist at all, but I do know there's a blood-brain barrier where blood like goes through a whole special system before it can get into the brain. And so contaminants that get into your normal bloodstream have to do something special to get into the brain. So the fact that it was just really fast and immediate like that, I was just like, that's not how the blood-brain barrier works. But also, it's a gamma-enhanced radioactive biological serum from the Hulk. So
Yeah, and also, why did it just affect his brain, I guess? Like when She-Hulk got Bruce Banner's blood, it affected her whole body, I
yeah,
guess. So,
and she just gets like a cut in the arm
yeah.
because it affects everybody a little differently. In that show, they explain it away as she's his cousin, and so it's compatible.
Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And the sample that gets dripped into his head, he said that he took the limited blood samples that Bruce Banner sent him earlier in the movie off screen and diluted them, or no, concentrated them and then replicated it into multiple samples so that it was a diluted sample so he could try multiple different things with it. So this was like some weird concoction that he made out of Bruce Banner's blood. So who knows?
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't think about that.
It's definitely, we're in the area of the sci-fi fantasy. It's always fun, like these more grounded episodes where it feels like it could just literally be like a scene in Mission Impossible, where everything's supposed to be real world physics as possible. But pretty quickly you're reminded, oh yeah, it's a superhero universe, sci-fi fantasy, pushing those genres to the limits. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And then we've got Sidewinder, being played by Giancarlo Esposito. And I'm really excited to see that role. I'm excited to see him in the MCU. I believe we've got some uh, some hot goss around what's going on with the Serpent Society. We'll get to that a little bit later. Then we've got Leela Taylor. Who's That's the character. Who's Leela Taylor? Zosha Roquemore?
No idea.
I don't know who that character is. There's a character named Copperhead. Johannes Hakur Johansson. I don't know who Copperhead is either. Probably a serpent. Sounds like a serpent society. That's a kind of snake, right? A copperhead?
Yeah.
Commander Dennis Dunphy, somebody in the military. William Mark McCullough. We got Prime Minister Ozaki. That's the, I believe, Japanese Prime Minister, because they're going to be the ones that are fighting America over rights to the adamantium in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. That
He's
makes
played
sense.
by Takahiro Hara. And then we start to get into, there's some other presidents. Prime Minister Kapoor by Harsh Nayar. French president. The French president is going to be in it with Rick Espaliat. I'm making an ass of myself trying to say these names, but we're going to move forward. Then we get into the characters that are like Senior Advisor 1, Senior Advisor 2. So we're just going to move on now. We're getting into, they've got a lot of staff. A lot of cast and crew. I mainly like talking about those those bigger roles, and I especially like to at least say the names of the writers and directors so that we have them in our head as they potentially work on other projects in the superhero world, the superhero genre. Because it's interesting to see when a writer goes over to DC or vice versa, and so on.
Yeah. For sure.
So that ends the IMDb segment. IMDb's. Now we're going to get into some newsies. So this first newsie is about early buzz, mostly positive, quote unquote, not great, not terrible. Now, if it's not terrible and it's a superhero movie, by definition, it's super, right?
Yeah. I guess so.
So that means this movie's going to be a banger. Get your tickets now, guys. You heard it here first. Captain America Brave New World, as reported by comicbookmovie.com, early buzz is mostly positive, not great, not terrible. Guys, if it's not terrible, first of all, let's get into this. We'll get the first social media reactions for Captain America Brave New World tomorrow night. This was reported as of February 11th. Oh, yeah. So, what I like about this article is pretty funny. A scooper. Oh, it's this guy again. My time to shine. Oh, it's their time to shine. Everybody pay attention. They're shining. The buzz I'm hearing about Captain America Brave New World is that it's okay. A classic 3-star movie. Not great, not terrible, just serviceable. So just keep in mind, these guys, they're out there to get engagement just like most other people out there. Um, and generating the like, oh, it's gonna be bad, ha 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 ha, tends to be more engageable than it's a great movie. Everybody go see it. Which is why maybe this podcast won't do so good, because that's generally my attitude. It's a great movie. Just go see it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get a lot of engagement off of that.
Yeah. I take these with a grain of salt. I want to watch it for myself and determine whether it's good or not.
Right. And of course, the vernacular is always what I'm hearing, what I've heard. I'm hearing is, and that always just strikes me as like, okay, so definitely a grain of salt. And it's like, to some extent, from what I gather, some of them are starting to like get a reputation for kind of having good scoops or good leaks or bad leaks. And so like Daniel RPK is a name that I hear often of people being like, "Oh, he said it, therefore it must be true." But then he's still wrong half the time. So it's like people just overvalue what they like, and then they pay less attention to when it's not serving them, is what it seems like to me. And so we're
Yeah.
in this like weird situation where, and part of this I think comes to the way the studios are handling things, because there's like a whole new niche of online content creators that are just Marvel snipers, where it's like they're just looking for any kind of muck to rake that they can to get that sweet engagement online to say, ha 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 ha, I'm taking down the big guys. And that's definitely the vibe I get from Hello, My Time to Shine. The another relatively trusted insider. I'm reading the. This is not me calling them a relatively trusted insider. Viewer Anon adds, I've consistently heard Captain America Brave New World is okay to pretty good. Those expecting a disaster are going to be disappointed. And that alone kind of gets at what I'm trying to get at here. Those expecting a disaster are going to be disappointed. There's literally a subsect of people out there that are going to be sad that this movie is good. And that just blows my mind. I don't get that. It's like, if you don't want to like the movie, shut the fuck up, sit down, and go away. Go watch other movies. There are other movies in the theaters as we speak. You do not have to. This is not the only movie that is coming out right now. Daniel Richtman, I think that's Daniel RPK. Daniel Richtman, meanwhile, has said he's heard the movie is meh. Again, he's heard. I've heard. We're hearing. And that's also like, on one hand, sure, oh, they've got to protect their sources. But I've also, like, just think in your own daily lives, when you hear people say that, to me it always vibes as like, I'm going to say this opinion out there that I don't want to have to fully defend. You know, they're just kind of like, it's like a throwaway statement. You lead with, well, what I've been hearing is, and so everyone just has to accept that that's what you've been hearing, and it like starts a conversation or makes a point you're trying to make without you having to actually justify or rationalize anything. So it's kind of just, bleh.
Yeah.
But this is the part of the article that I think undercuts it all. While we wouldn't put too much stock into these, especially as none of them have watched Captain America Brave New World, this is pretty much what we expected. That's what this article is saying. They're expecting that it's going to be mid. Everyone's just like, oh, it's going to be mid. Marvel's just mid these days. But mid Marvel is still top tier. That's top tier movie status. All right, yeah, the rest of this article just goes on to talk about things we've already talked about. It's kind of like the IMDb. And so, key takeaway there, no one has watched the movie. Whatever you're hearing from insiders, all have their own motivations and agendas behind them. So, tune it out. Go watch this movie for yourself. If it's a mid Marvel movie, that's a top tier compared to anything else. That means it blows like any other action movie out of the park. That means this movie is going to have incredible action sequences. It's going to have great character moments. And now we're going to get into hearing a little bit from Nate Moore, a veteran executive producer. I found a good article that has some quotes from him on IGN. He's been with Marvel Studios as a producer, executive producer, and development executive for over a decade. He was involved in many of Marvel's most popular films. What projects did Nate Moore work on? We're talking Captain America the Winter Soldier, co-producer, Black Panther, executive producer, Captain America Civil War, executive producer, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, executive producer, Eternals, producer, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, producer, Captain America Brave New World, he's a producer on this too. Apparently he was working on Blade, and he has now left Marvel. Some people tried to make this into, again, anytime anything happens in tabloids at all, people like to shit all over it. So the news dropped that Nate Moore was leaving Marvel, and everyone was like, this spells trouble for Captain America Brave New World, because everyone likes to tear down these movies before they even have their own chance to shine. And he's leaving because he is at a point in his career where he wants to pursue his own independent producing. And he has the full support of Marvel Studios. He has a great relationship with Kevin Feige, and he will be back to work on Black Panther 3. So don't believe any of that bullshit out there. Now, let's get to the IGN article where he's talking about Captain America Brave New World is the start of Avengers 2.0. It has been almost 6 years since the Avengers broke up following the defeat of Thanos and the death of Tony Stark. But it was only a matter of time until the world needed its mightiest heroes once again. With new Avengers movies coming in 2026 and 2027, the MCU needs to reassemble the team pretty quickly. Thankfully, the first step in recruiting the team is happening here in Captain America Brave New World. Now, here's the quote from Nate Moore. He says, "We know people miss the Avengers, and we miss the Avengers." He's one of the guiding hands behind the fourth Captain America film. He goes on to say, "But we knew if we jumped right back into the Avengers after Endgame, we wouldn't give people a chance to miss it." And I think that's exactly right. I've been saying this the whole time. I'm like, guys, let's just stop getting mad that every single movie isn't the Avengers. Let's just enjoy some of these little projects.
Yeah, and also every movie isn't made for all of the Marvel fans. Not every Marvel fan is going to like every Marvel movie that they do.
Yeah. They're not all made for
So,
every single individual.
yeah.
Like the target audience for Iron Man, probably not the same target audience for Miss Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
That said, I love them both. It's okay to like it all. It's
Yeah.
also okay to recognize that not all of it is made for you.
Yeah, exactly.
As released in a pre release marketing clip, back to the article here, Brave New World's opening act sees President Ross, taking over for the late William Hurt, is Harrison Ford, and he's talking about restarting the Avengers project. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is the man who established the Sokovia Accords, and so it can seem confusing to some that he's now wanting to start the Avengers when he was the person behind the Sokovia Accords. But that shouldn't really be too confusing because at the end of the day, it's the same result. He was the Secretary of State back then in Civil War, and at the end of the day, he's trying to get Avengers or a similar team under the control of the United States government. So it's really the same motivations he had in Civil War that are coming straight through into Captain America Brave New World, only now instead of being the Secretary of State, he's the actual president. Back to quotes from, let's see, Brave New World's director, Julius Ona. He was a guy who had this real legacy that could maybe be defined by his anger. But the man that we're meeting now is a man who is an elder statesman, who is a diplomat, who's turning a new leaf, who sees and understands the errors of his past and wants to do better. He wants to initiate the Avengers because they could be a benefit to the world. So Ross has some character growth.
We'll see about that.
Yeah. I mean, we know he's going to Hulk out. Do you think he does that to himself? That's kind of the speculation is like, does the leader do that to him or does he do that to himself? I could really see it going either way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
The IGN article goes on to say, of course, President Ross doesn't plan to recreate the Avengers exactly as they once were. As we saw in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Captain America is now an official United States government role. And in the opening of Brave New World, Wilson is working directly with the president. All this means that a Captain America led Avengers team would also effectively be a branch of the U.S. Defense Department. At least, I'm going to add here, that's at least if President Ross gets his way. I have a feeling Sam Wilson's going to take issue with that plan.
Yeah, I would think so.
All right, here's a quote again from back from Moore. Ross is the man who passed the Sokovia Accords. He certainly realized that the Avengers left unchecked may not be the best idea for anyone. And so I certainly think he understands that power is more beneficial to him if it's under his command. And he figures, why not do it first before somebody beats me to the punch? Sounds like a kind of obvious thing to say. I think certainly any nation that has a group of Avengers has a leg up over anyone else, says Moore, and Ross is a general, so he certainly understands what a tactical advantage it is. I really focused on the emotional journey that Sam was taking, says Ona, back to the director's quotes. It was really cool to then put him opposite somebody who had divided the Avengers in the past. Because of that history, Sam was put into prison. The Sokovia Accords, all the stuff that Ross pushed forward as Secretary of State came into play. These are things that when these two men walk into a room, that tension between them is palpable. Yeah, I upon first viewing of the trailers, I didn't really connect the dots of all that steeped history between these two characters already.
Yeah.
So then the article goes on to talk about Perhaps it will be Walker and his morally flexible companions. That's speculation we were talking about. So let's see. I want more quotes. More quotes. More quotes. Ona, here's an Ona quote. Historically, the Avengers have been led by a Captain America, and Sam Wilson is very much so a worthy one, as the show explored. Ona says, but part of telling this story is also reinforcing, illustrating, and dramatizing for an audience why is he worthy. So it sounds like we are going to get some similar notes probably from what we saw in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just kind of taken up a notch. Because The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was specifically contrasting him to the leader of the Flag Smashers. I don't remember that character's name. Was it Carla? Not Carla.
Oh yeah, it might have been. I already forgot.
Carly?
Carla, Carly, some. I mean, you can look it up.
So it's juxtaposing him against the Flag Smashers, Super Soldiers, against Bucky Barnes, and against John Walker. And so that show is like a very poignant, targeted way to talk about why Sam Wilson of these people is the right one, and of really all of them, not least of which being that Sam, sorry, not Sam, Sam was chosen by Steve Rogers, like directly. Steve Rogers is pretty insightful. Yep, Carly, also known as Flag Smasher. Interesting interpretation of that comic book character. Just another reason to check the comic book, along with your expectations, at the door. That worthiness comes from Wilson's empathy, which Ona describes as the character's superpower. And I kind of like that. In The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he says, my only superpower is that I believe we can do better. As any MCU fan knows, Wilson is simply just a man with a shield and a pair of mechanical wings. And sure, he can punch and kick pretty well, but it's his ability to understand the perspective of his allies and enemies that allows him to wield the shield, specifically the values that Disc of Vibranium represents, with effectiveness. Quote, I think that's what makes him a Captain America of this moment, Ona says. Back to a Nate Moore quote, I don't think Sam would be prepared to lead the Avengers until he truly believed that he was Captain America. Moore adds, and our goal as filmmakers was to take him on a journey of questioning whether or not he made the right decision. Hopefully, by the end, we'll have him and the audiences go, there certainly could be no one else. He is Captain America, and hopefully he takes the tools from this movie to be able to lead the Avengers. And I'm looking forward to that story playing out. That's where the article ends. Super, super excited for that. That's basically what I wanted. In our previous episode, we mentioned the reshoots, and we'll talk a little bit more detail about that in a minute. But it really feels to me like the reshoots were to focus in on Sam Wilson's story, because this is a Captain America movie.
Yeah, and reshoots aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. It can be a really good thing.
Yeah.
It can be, oh, this wasn't working. We took some feedback. We fixed it and made it better. I would much rather them do that than shit something out the door for the pride's sake of saying, oh, we didn't need a single reshoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, yeah, we're getting right into that. That's what the next bit of drama is about. Did you hear about the Seth Rollins drama and the Rosa Salazar drama?
I heard a little bit about the Seth Rollins drama.
Well, it seems like they're kind of related. Let's start with Seth Rollins. Let me pull up the article here for Seth Rollins. Addresses speculation about his appearance in Captain America Brave New World. I actually saw a little bit of the interview that this article is referencing. And he seems like a really chill guy. I'm not into WWE, but I totally understand why people were excited that he was going to be in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
So the article goes on to say, fans of Seth freaking Rollins, who were hoping to see WWE superstar in the upcoming Captain America Brave New World, are going to feel as though the former WWE champion has snubbed them. Why would they feel that way? That's a dumb way to put it. Was Seth Rollins deceived? The truth about his Captain America role. Rollins made the announcement while keeping quiet about the specifics of what transpired during an appearance on Insight Podcast. Rollins was candid in his podcast interview about the reasons he would not be appearing in the movie, but he did not elaborate. Here's the quote. The script went through a lot of rewrites and reshoots, so what I was there to do, essentially, my role got either repurposed or completely erased. That is the only quote in this entire article. So, and that's normal. And keep in mind, he's just an actor on set. So he doesn't know what those decisions behind the scenes are like, or what all was kept and lost. And part of me would not be surprised if he still is in it as a cameo appearance. Like that could still be the case. I feel like he would maybe know, but also they don't always know that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
Marvel Studios plays things real secretively, which is part of why they rub some people the wrong way in the industry. So, and it seems to me, I was reading this next article about Rosa Salazar. She was Battle Angel, Alita Battle Angel.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was her.
So, back in January, this article came out about her Brave New World role. And the writer of this article seems to miss the point that it's okay for characters to be rewritten and written off and movies change. That happens in all movies, let alone superhero movies, especially with the formula that Marvel Studios have. They bake reshoots into their process. So it should never shock anyone when a Marvel movie does a reshoot. I think pretty much every single one has had pretty extensive reshoots. Well, extensive by general industry standards, not extensive. It's literally built into the plan chart. Anyway, Captain America Brave New World underwent what many have said were significant reshoots last year. If the usual suspects are to be believed, Marvel Studios has either completely cut or significantly reduced the role played by the Serpent Society. That part, I think they're exactly right, and I think it's a good thing. At least two members of the group have been spotted filming, Rosa Salazar and WWE superstar Seth Rollins. To leave them on the cutting room floor seems extreme. Oh, it's extreme, according to this person. And we can only theorize that something about the society's inclusion in the movie wasn't working. That's what sounds right to me. And actually, I agree with that completely. However, with Giancarlo Esposito's cast as the group's leader, Sidewinder, we expect to see something of the Serpent Society in the next Captain America movie. Yes, that goes without saying. He's in all of the latest trailers. In a piece about Salazar joining the cast of NBC's Einstein Variety confirms she is set to appear in the upcoming Marvel film Captain America Brave New World in the role of Rachel Lighton, aka Diamondback. Oh, there was Copperback was on the IMDb, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the Serpent Society's not completely gone, with the film set to debut in February. And this article is as of January 8th. And I think all the reshoots were long before that. They didn't do any recent.
Copperhead.
Copperhead. Copperhead and Diamondback.
Yeah.
So, it's the closest we've come to an official announcement about her role. Last year, it was reported that an earlier cut of Captain America Brave New World, the Serpent Society consisted of Diamondback, Constrictor, Rattler, Asp, and Cobra, with all of them boasting segmented tattoos which would spread apart to reveal cybernetic enhancements. This is a little vague, but the leak revealed that together they'd have made the Serpent. So, am I picturing like a Voltron but a snake? Diamondback could shoot projectiles from her fingers. Rattler had sonic boom powers. Constrictor unleashed charged coils from his arms. Asp had fire fists, and Cobra could spit acid from his fangs.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting. Sounds like here's what I think. That sounds like it needs its whole own movie around it, not slotted in under Red Hulk and the Adamantium War.
Yeah.
That's why I think they did those reshoots. I bet the first screenings were like, what is this? Too fucking much going on? What is happening? Who are these snake people? And now there's a Red Hulk, and now there's adamantium falcons running around. How much of that we'll see in the final cut, the article says, remains to be seen. We're hoping Salazar has a decent role in Captain America Brave New World alongside the rest of the Serpent Society because there's a ton of potential for the villainous team in the MCU beyond this movie. And that right there, again, I think this article is so close to the point. Beyond this movie, I think that it's been retooled so that this movie just sort of sets up the Serpent Society. How there's always kind of that minor villain that seems like they're involved in it, but then they end up not being the main villain. You know, that's almost a red herring. They were just adding to the situation.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be like that. So I think Giancarlo Esposito, as the leader of the Sidewinder, is going to get into the fray, and it's going to lay all the groundwork for the Serpent Society to continue on. Because the Serpent Society could really be an arc more like Hydra, where it spans a few movies, and maybe even a TV show. You know, like it's a bigger Captain America villain that you wouldn't just disposed of in one movie, especially not as the secondary villain when you have the leader and the Red Hulk taking center stage.
Yeah.
So having it just be introduced as a secondary villain makes a lot more sense to me, and then it can lead into a more grounded storytelling situation for Captain America down the line. All right, and then the rest of the article goes into the IMDb. Okay, you ready for the next bit of drama around this movie?
Yeah.
So this is unfortunately where real world stuff affects the perception of the movie. It happens way more than any of us would like it to, or I guess some people like it, and that's why it keeps happening, because people just like to do that. They get this weird satisfaction out of being like, oh, the Red Hulk is like our president hulking out because he's angry after being inaugurated. No, it's not. Thaddeus Ross has been set up since the Incredible Hulk. He's been on this. This has been his whole character. We've watched his career grow from general to Secretary of State to now president. Keep your real world analogies out of this. It's a fantasy world, but they want it to feel real, you know. So if they are learning from like historians about how economics and sociology works, and they're applying that logic to how their world works, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying they're like getting historians in here and like, but you know what I mean? They're like they're considering how the real world works when they build their world because they want it to be relatable at the end of the day. It's not a total fantasy.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, total fantasies don't work on the big screen very much. Like, I want more fantasy genre movies, like the Dungeons and Dragon movie. I loved that. Um, but other than that, most fantasy on film or TV is like the really low magic, like Game of Thrones, or the really restrained magic, like Lord of the Rings. Like those are really the two biggest fantasy things on film or TV. It's starting to change. Dungeons and Dragons the movie is an example of something a little bit higher magic,
Yeah.
but the point is the world needs to feel somewhat grounded and relatable. And this character from the comics, Sabra, has been in there for a while. Okay, but I do want to walk back on that on myself a little bit because to some extent the comics and those stories have always been social commentary. I don't know if there's any times that they are specifically targeting an individual, you know, like other than no, because even Captain America deals with Hydra, not Nazi Germany, even though that's very clearly like it's attached, but they separate it by a step so that they can have a fictional story around it and have it be relatable. So the issue here with Sabra in Captain America, I'll just read this here. Captain America Brave New World is still Sabra in Captain America Brave New World is still Israeli, but not Mossad and no longer a mutant, producer clarifies after controversy. So, just to be real clear, the controversy was that the character existed. Period. The team behind Captain America Brave New World recently opened up to The National about introducing Ruth Bat-Saraf, aka Sabra, into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a decision that sparked controversy when news broke in September 2022 that unorthodox Emmy nominee Shara Haas, unorthodox is the title of the movie, I guess. I don't know it, but I'm not calling her unorthodox, and I don't think the article is either. It was referring to a movie called Unorthodox. She's an Emmy nominee, Shara Haas, cast in the role. Sabra is an Israeli superhero and a Mossad agent in the comics. Mossad is the Israeli Secret Service in the comics. Maybe it is in reality too? I guess I don't know enough.
I don't know.
I like superhero worlds, guys. I don't get into real geopolitics. We talk about it when it comes close to the fandom, but the character's inclusion in the MCU raised concerns among Palestinians, although Marvel assured fans worldwide that Sabra would be reworked, quote unquote, for the big screen. And that sparked controversy. Just how Sabra has been reworked for her MCU debut is now being revealed. After months of speculation and rumors that Marvel had dropped the character's Israeli ties, which sparked controversy in Israel, Captain America Brave New World producer Nate Moore now confirms Sabra is an Israeli in the final movie. Here's his quote. She's Israeli, but she's not Mossad. She now works in the US government. What we thought was interesting was a lot of the characters in the film revolve around President Thaddeus Ross, Harrison Ford. Ruth works within the government under Ross, so her perspective on that character and Sam's perspective sort of put them on a collision course. She's first generation Israeli, but she works within the US government. Sabra in the MCU is not a Mossad agent, but a former Black Widow, and Moore stressed that reworking the character for Captain America Brave New World had little to do with the backlash and more to do with ensuring the superhero fit more seamlessly into the film universe that's already been created. Here's his quote. We try to take the essence of a character, but reinterpret it in a way that we find interesting, Moore told The National. When we made the Black Widow movie, we realized there was an opportunity to connect that mythology to characters that we thought were interesting and maybe didn't want to translate as one-to-one from publishing. The Ruth Bat Sarafi you meet in the film has very much, I would argue, the attitude of the character from publishing, but the backstory is different. And this is where I keep coming back to, is check the comics at the door. Check your expectations at the door. They're going to make these things fit in the stories as they exist in the MCU. And the context of the comics are not the same as the context of the MCU. And I love that he says, look, this isn't about the backlash. And yet at the same time, he's the guy who has the reputation in all of these previous projects that we just went over from Nate Moore of making things feel real, like what we want. We want that relatability, that realness to it, without it feeling too real and too close to home and like too in your face about bullshit or the other.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that. I cannot wait to get to know this character. The only thing I'm disappointed about, and it's just because I like mutants, he says she's no longer a mutant. And I mean, that's fine. Again, they're changing. The part that we care about is that they keep the attitude of the character the way he puts it here. We want the essence of that character. We want Captain America to feel like Captain America. But it's okay if the specifics around some of it changes. And that's especially true with some of these lesser-known characters. They can take even more liberties with it. So if you're a huge fan of Sabra's mutant abilities, I would understand being disappointed. I didn't even know what they were, but I like mutants. I'm excited to get to the mutant saga. He goes on to say, she's a part of the Red Room from Black Widow, Moore said. You want to make the best version of a character, be honest to the roots of the character without not necessarily doing what publishing did. We weren't about to put her in a feather boa and have her throw diamond earrings at people, such as in the comic books, but we did like the attitude of the character. And to be quite honest, we'd been wanting to work with Shira Haas for a while, he added. She's so talented, she's so unique, both in her look and her performance style. We thought this was the perfect marriage. So again, I'm glad that Nate Moore is involved in this. I am, on one hand, sad that he's leaving Marvel, but encouraged he'll still be working on Black Panther 3 to at least bring that trilogy to a good point for the next generation of whatever comes next for Wakanda. And at the same time, I'm really looking forward to whatever he goes and does on his own from this point forward. So yeah, that's pretty much all the drama. However, the director and producer that we've been hearing from wanted to address the extensive reshoots and poor test screening rumors, which were largely propagated by the person who gets to have their turn to shine. What's their hello time to shine mine? My time to shine hello?
Yeah, something like
that. So propagated by them and perhaps other scoopers, and then also the Seth Rollins situation. He really made it sound like it was way more sense. I don't blame him. I can imagine being bitter. I think he still gets a paycheck, but probably not as much of one, and he doesn't get the fame out of it. So I would understand if he's bitter. I hope he doesn't ruin his relationship with Marvel, because the door could potentially still be open to him. They're just not talking about it yet because it would be years down the line. Like, if my theory is true that they're just introducing the Serpent Society here, and then we'll get more of them later, they could totally bring back the Battle Angel and the WWE fighter.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? So I hope he doesn't put his foot in his mouth and ruin that opportunity for himself, if it exists. So, Captain America 4's creative team has responded to rumors about its development. The Marvel movie is said to have received poor audience reactions during initial screenings and subsequently undergone various reshoots. Its director and one of its producers say the speculation has been blown out of proportion. Captain America Brave New World's creative team has responded to rumors surrounding the Marvel's protracted development. Oh, wow. Protracted. Chink, chink, chink. That just makes me think of like those antennas. Or like one of those toy lightsabers. You flip it out, and then you make the with your mouth. That's all I think about when I think protracted. Protract that lightsaber out. The Marvel Phase 5 film is set to fly into theaters this Friday, Valentine's Day. However, there's no love lost between those working on the superheroes flick and the industry insiders, with the latter claiming that Captain America 4's development cycle has been difficult. From reporters of poor audience reactions during initial test screenings to the rumors that it underwent significant reshoots across 3 different time periods, you'd be forgiven for thinking Brave New World's production was anything but troubled. And before we even get into this, I want to remind people that, sure, the director and the producer definitely have something at stake to defend this movie's honor. But we can't undercut, or we can't ignore the motivations of people that are dropping the scoops, that just want those internet points. Because the internet points, it sounds silly to say it that way, but it's the easiest way to talk about it. Those internet points, in the right hands, translates to real money and influence. And that can't be ignored. Speaking to TechRadar at the film's UK junket, through director Julius Onah and producer Nate Moore, I love both these guys, played it off as nothing more than idle gossip. And that's kind of how I've been taking it too. Indeed, the pair insisted that one of 2025's most exciting new movies only underwent one period of extensive reshoots in a bid to make it the best film possible. And while I know they have a stake in defending its honor, I don't think they would lie so fragrantly. You know? Like, that would be a pretty easy thing to disprove after the movie's out.
Yeah.
They're not as significant, the reshoots, as reporters say they are, Moore told me. It's actually less than what we've done on other Marvel projects, and he would fucking know. He's done some of the biggest. Our goal is to make the best movie. Always, he continued. And our task is to keep turning over the stones until it's as good as we think we can make it. So, wait, you're telling me they don't just get it out of the way, wipe their hands, and say, all right, well, we're done here. You're telling me they look at it again and again, and they rethink it, and they really make sure it sits right? Then they do some test screen. Anyway, he goes on to say, the blessing of working at a place like Marvel is we have the resources to do that. So why not take that opportunity? This is the article. When I put the same question to Ona, here, this person's speaking in first person. Who is I? This is Tom Power, published this yesterday. When I put the same question to Ona in a separate interview, the director of Captain America's latest big screen adventure, which stars Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson as Steve Rogers' successor, said, every movie on this scale had additional photography baked into the creative process. There are things you're going to refine, and the story is going to evolve. Like every single MCU movie, we had one period of reshoots, so whatever the reports might have been out there, that's not the reality of how this movie was made. When you're making something of this scale with actors, visual effects, and different plot threads and characters, you have to take your time. You have to make sure you're creating the best experience for the audience. But yes, we had one singular additional photography process and then utilize that to make this film the best it could be. And maybe that's a little bit of a dig at Seth Rollins, because part of making this film the best it could be seems to be cutting his character.
Yeah.
That answers speculation about Cap 4 requiring more than one spell of reshoots to get it right. But what about the conjecture of Brave New World's original cut was given the thumbs down by fans who were lucky enough to get to see it early? For that, we go back to Moore. I like this guy. We're going to say his name again. Tom Power. I like his writing. Tom Power. All right, I'll keep an eye out for him. For that, we go back to Moore. The test screenings have been overreported as well, he replied. We're aware of what people are talking about a lot of the time, but there's no use in us raising our hands when those reports come to say, well, that's not correct. We really want the film to do the talking, and now that it finally can, I think people are going to be surprised and impressed. I can't wait for everyone to see it. Back to the article. Tom, I'll be covering Brave New World in much more detail leading up and after the superheroes movie launch. Ahead of more exclusive coverage heading your way. Find out more about the film in my Captain America Brave New World guide and read my Captain America 4 cast and character piece to see who's joining Mackie on the screen for this one. Nice. Tom Power. We're going to give Tom Power a little time to shine because he's not directly asking for it. As Tech Radar's senior entertainment reporter. So he's Tech Radar's senior entertainment reporter. Oh, okay, cool. We're going to tune into more Tech Radar. I love finding good news sources. So that kind of, I think, paints the whole picture here of scoopers out there like to shit on things for engagement.
Yep, negativity sells.
Negativity sells. Actors sometimes don't make the cut. It sucks when it's an actor you really like, but it happens.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a pretty common thing, especially for like maybe lesser known actors too.
Yep. Sabra never had any real world ties or any real world justifications for changing the character. It was all rooted in the way they wanted to make the character for this story. So once again, just people out there making it about what it's not. And those production rumors, again, blown out of the water. Blown out of the water. Everyone, let's just take a breath. Ignore the, 20% of people that are really loud on the internet that just like to hate things. And realize there's some of us out here that like to enjoy things. And it's okay if you're one of them. Now let's get into some speculations. For the speculation, let's first turn back to Tom Power for a little bit of detail on what to expect from Captain America Brave New World. Captain America Brave New World follows Sam Wilson, who, after meeting with newly elected U.S. President Thaddeus Ross, finds himself in the middle of an international incident. He must discover the reason behind a nefarious global plot before the true mastermind has the entire world seeing red. So I think that true mastermind is the leader, Samuel Stearns, with the Hulk head. What do you think?
Well, maybe it's the Red Hulk because it said they'll have the whole world seeing red.
Ooh.
I don't know. That's where my mind goes.
So that's our first speculation here. We're going to take notes. We're going to compare after we watch. So I'll put my predictions in green. I predict leader is main villain. You're predicting Red Hulk is the main villain, or will we all be surprised and it's actually Sidewinder?
Or maybe it's the leader is behind Thaddeus Ross becoming the Red Hulk.
Ooh, so it's kind of both. So the leader creates the Red Hulk.
Yeah.
So Thaddeus Ross maybe doesn't even know. He wants superheroes working for him. He doesn't want to do it to himself.
Yeah, because it seems like he doesn't like superheroes very much.
Yeah. Although we were just talking about how he's turning over a new leaf.
Yeah.
He wants them to work for him now.
Well, he just wants control of them.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're right. I think the main villain will be the leader. I think Sidewinder will be in the mix to like keep things crazy and it's going to be subversive and we don't know what's going to be, who's doing what kind of a thing. So if Thaddeus Ross is so dead set on creating super soldiers, now when he's giving that presentation, he already knows it's adamantium and it looks like they're showing like mineral structure. So I come back to the Weapon X. Do you think we'll get a nod at like Weapon X project, like it's being started? Maybe we don't see any of the creations of Weapons X, but maybe it's brewing kind of in the background, and then maybe at the same time that's when Valentina Allegra de Fontaine is starting to assemble the Thunderbolts a year later.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a possibility that maybe there's like a little nod to it or something like that.
Yeah. And we might have to wait until Thunderbolts to have an answer to this next question, but um, Julia Louise Dreyfus's character, Valentina, is a CIA director. Well, the CIA director. And as far as I'm aware, the president picks CIA director. It has to be approved. If MCU politics work similar to ours, the Senate has to approve them. But um, do you think she's kind of doing this on her own? Because she was already the CIA director in Wakanda Forever before Thaddeus Ross was the president. And it seems like she's still the CIA director in Thunderbolts after Thaddeus Ross is the president. So she must just be a well regarded CIA director, at least from political standpoint. So is she working under the president's nose to get the Thunderbolts to work for her? Or is she working under his directive to get the Thunderbolts to work for her?
Hmm, I don't know.
I could see it going either way. And again, we might have to wait until Thunderbolts to actually have an answer on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what her motive is.
Yeah. And then we do know I think it's literally been confirmed he gets a new suit from Wakanda with the new Captain America suit. He got a new one from Wakanda at the end. Bucky Barnes actually goes out of his way and calls in a favor, is literally the way it's phrased.
Yeah.
That's a pure vibranium suit. We know that much. Well, maybe vibranium and some other materials here and there. But do you think the new suit, which also comes from Wakanda, will be exclusively vibranium, or will it be a hybrid vibranium and adamantium suit?
That would be interesting, but do Wakandans have access to adamantium?
Not by nature. The meteor gave them the vibranium, and then
Yeah.
there was another medium that fell in the ocean somewhere, and that's where we got Wakanda Forever because they had their own vibranium in the I think it was the Telecon with Namor.
Oh, yeah.
And so that whole movie was a war, well, a conflict. It wasn't quite a full war yet. It was a conflict between Wakanda, the rest of the world, and Namor over who would control the vibranium. And while Wakandans don't necessarily have any ties to adamantium, I don't think adamantium comes from a converted celestial either in the comics. And I could totally see with the way the the MCU's geopolitics are right now that the Wakandans would be interested and would want to have a say in how this new rare special metal is used in the world. Because it's a direct competitor to their vibranium. It's harder than vibranium. Vibranium has certain qualities that adamantium doesn't, and vice versa, but vibranium would lose to adamantium, I'm pretty sure. I think, at least in the comics, I think it's shown that Wolverine's claws go straight through Captain America's shield.
Oh, okay.
So the Wakandans, I would think, would want to have a say. And we know they give him the new suit. So we know they're at least in the peripherals of this movie. So I don't know. I could go either way. But that kind of leads into our final segment. And that is, will they cameo? So we're going to play a little game here. I've come up with a list of characters that I think might cameo in this movie. I would be shocked if they all do. But I'm going to justify why they may cameo in this movie. And then I want you to give me a ranking on a scale, not a ranking, just a rating on a scale of 1 to 7 on how likely you think it is that they will cameo in this movie. And
Okay.
and if you think it's most likely that they'll cameo in a credit scene, a post credit scene, we'll make a special note for that.
Okay.
So the first one, I bring this one up almost as more of an honorable mention. It seems like they're going to give it a lot of breathing room for Sam Wilson to define himself as Captain America. But is there any chance at all we get like an old man Captain America, old man Steve Rogers?
Oh,
Maybe he's
yeah.
actually hiding up there on the moon.
Yeah, he's on the moon. Uh, I I don't know. Maybe we'll get some flashbacks, but I I don't know. I might be surprised if they do have Steve Rogers, just because I wouldn't think they want him to overshadow Sam Wilson.
Yeah. So what are you rating that at? 0 out of 7,
Uh,
or is one's the minimum?
yeah, I'd say one. I'd say a one, just for flashbacks, I guess, or
Now, what about as a post
yeah.
credit?
Mm, probably not likely. So I don't know.
Still a 1 out of 7 for post credit.
Yeah,
All right, the next one I want to bring to your attention is Bucky Barnes. They last appeared in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier together, where they came together as like characters of each other's mythos, whereas before they were just both attached to Steve Rogers. So now they're directly attached to each other because of that movie,
yeah,
or show. And then we've got Thunderbolts coming out literally just 2 months, 2.5 months um, after this movie. So I'm thinking, here's my pitch for how he would cameo: is he would be in some scene just as one of the dignitaries at some event, probably early in the movie, and just have like a couple lines of dialogue before he goes off and does his own thing, which then becomes the events of the Thunderbolts.
yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like he would have a pretty small role, but um, just leading into the Thunderbolts.
Yeah. So are you saying a small role or just a cameo?
I guess
I guess that is a cameo.
that's
So then are you ranking this 7 out of 7? Do you think it's
um.
very, very likely?
Let's go with 6 out of 7.
6 out of 7. All right, and then Yelena, kind of a similar situation. She comes up right next. She is also from the Red Room, as is Sabra.
Yeah,
So maybe there could be some interplay there.
yeah. I think that might be pretty likely. Also, I would say 5 out of 7.
5 out of 7 on Yelena. All right, and then we've got Bruce Banner. Obviously,
Oh,
a lot of the antagonists that Sam is up against in this movie originate from Bruce Banner's own and only solo outing,
yeah,
with the leader and Thaddeus Ross, and Betty Ross is supposed to be coming back. That's been like a rumor here or there that we didn't talk about earlier, but we don't know. I guess I'll include Betty Ross on the list of people.
oh yeah. I think we're gonna see Betty Ross for sure. Um,
Yeah, I think that.
Bruce Banner though, isn't he? He's got a son now, and isn't he like he's off kind of doing his own thing.
Yeah, he's Professor
So
Hulk still,
yeah.
which
So
a lot of people are annoyed by. But I just want to comment on that really quick, because let's just take a step back and realize that we lost Iron Man, we lost Captain America, we
yeah,
essentially lost the Hulk too, right? But he's
yeah,
just still existing out there. They didn't kill him off.
yeah,
And so everyone's like, oh, I want the Hulk back. We'll get him back. But they gave it room to breathe, and now we're all excited for the Red Hulk. And if we had the same Savage Hulk in the MCU this whole time, this Red Hulk wouldn't feel quite as special.
yeah, and also kind of the same thing where I don't think they would want it to overshadow the the Red Hulk.
Right.
So they might just leave him out of it.
So
But
what are you ranking it out of?
I'm gonna say 2,
2 out of 7.
2 out of 7.
So I want to counter just a little bit, because I think it would
Okay.
be hilarious if if he does show up, but he's still just Professor Hulk, and he's like, "All right, Sam, I'll help you," and then he just gets trashed by the Red Hulk because he can't get his anger up. You know?
I guess we'll have to watch it and find out.
This is why I'm not a writer, at least not a screenplay writer. All right, so then that brings me to, I was actually going to suggest Scar as a potential cameo, his son. Because what if, he hears about it and he's a young, growing Hulk person, and he's like, I'm gonna do something about it if you don't, Dad. Fuck you. This is part of your problem. You created all this. So I'm gonna go fucking handle it.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't even thought about that character making a cameo. But mm, I don't know. That's a tough one
And keep
because
in mind,
he's not a very known character, at least in the
right?
MCU.
Yeah, no, he literally just has that one scene where he doesn't even have a line.
And the weird hair, like that's what I
Dude,
mostly
what is with the
remember.
internet people hating on hair?
I mean, did you see it though? It's
Yeah,
pretty.
he's also a Hulk person from a different planet.
That's no excuse.
I think it literally is.
Okay. Well, uh,
Different
I
cultures have different hair. I would think a different planetary culture would probably have some significantly different hair.
yeah, I guess he is from Sakaar, right?
Yeah,
And that
he
is
was
an odd
born and
place.
raised there, and then he had to go get
So,
picked up. Yeah, he gets dropped off in She-Hulk randomly. Yeah.
but anyways,
So I just want to remind you, if the Scoopers are to be believed, they have said that at least one more Hulk was added during those reshoots, the same reshoots that cut out some of the Serpent Society.
could
That's
it
if they're to
be?
be believed. Again, they're Scoopers. They're getting
Yeah,
internet points.
I think it would be more likely that like Abomination might
Mm.
show up than Scar.
Well, he's on the list also. Okay, so
Uh,
then rank them both for me. Here, let's just
uh,
talk about all the potential Hulks. Maybe there's a new one we don't know about yet. But I've got
yeah.
Scar, Abomination, and Jennifer Walters.
Hmm. Um,
She's on the Pacific Coast.
yeah,
This is a
she's on the West
Pacific,
Coast.
but the
So,
conflict is in the Pacific Ocean.
oh, that's true. So maybe, um, that would be interesting. I'm gonna say a 3 on She-Hulk.
A 3 on She-Hulk. I forgot what you said on Scar.
I'm gonna go with I'm going with 1 on that one.
You think they're gonna save him for a different project? I think that's
I feel
probably
like,
right. Like the Young
yeah, Young
Avengers,
Avengers
something like
would be
that.
more likely, but who knows what they're gonna set up in this movie. Um,
Now, Abomination did also reprise his role in She-Hulk.
yeah.
So maybe She-Hulk's
So
another good one to
actually,
watch going
yeah,
into this.
that is true. Abomination is connected to,
All of this. Introduced in
yeah,
The Incredible Hulk,
yeah.
reprised
So
in She-Hulk,
I mean, I think it's pretty
and in
likely
Shang-Chi.
we'll see some Abomination. So I'm gonna, and also he's also kind of turned a new leaf too.
Yeah.
So
He's basically Smart Hulk before Smart Hulk was a thing.
yeah, I guess so. I'm gonna go with a 6 on Abomination.
I guess I shouldn't say he's like Smart Hulk. 6 out of
All right,
7.
he's
Because Abomination, even early on in The Incredible Hulk, he's like already pretty conscious and like speaking and knows things. Like right out of the gates. He's like, oh, fuck you, Thaddeus. You know, like he's just already talking. The Hulk is just raging out. And Abomination
yeah,
is like, oh, you think you can best me. While he's in Abomination form. And then in Shang-Chi, they show him literally training with Wong.
yeah,
And then in She-Hulk, he's already been out gallivanting around with Wong for who knows how long. And he just gets back into prison whenever he needs. It's so funny. Go watch these
yeah.
shows, guys. They're so good.
Well, it's pretty clear that the gamma, whatever it is that makes Hulk, it affects everybody differently.
Yeah. Just like the super soldier serums.
Yeah.
All right, and then we've got James Rhodes, aka Rhodey.
Ooh.
He could show up.
I think so. Well, yeah,
He's
because he's
often
also,
connected to the government stuff.
yeah, I was gonna say he's like, yeah, he's involved in the government side of things. So
He was like the go-between the Avengers and Thaddeus Ross in Civil War.
yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, we might see him. Let's go with a 4 on that one.
4 out of 7 on Rhodey. All right, and then we're going to talk about Shuri. We talked about Wakanda is definitely involved in some capacity, at least off screen. Do we think we see Shuri on screen?
Maybe. I'm gonna say a 3 on that one.
3 out of 7.
Yeah.
And kind of by extension, the Dora Milaje. You think they show up maybe instead of Shuri?
Yeah, you know what? I would say it might be a little more likely to see the Dora Milaje than Shuri, but I
So you'll
don't
set
know.
that as a 4 or a 5?
Yeah, let's go with 5. because Wakanda is, also involved in all of this, it seems like. So,
Yeah, and where there's Wakanda involvement, there's Dora Milaje,
yep.
especially in international stuff. And I included on this list Namor of the Talokan
Oh, that would
because
be
this is
interesting.
a chunk of adamantium that's rising out of the ocean
Yeah, yeah,
that they consider their own. They don't want the surface people coming into the ocean. And the way
yeah,
Wakanda Forever ended, it seemed like he was waiting for a reason to go to war with the surface dwellers.
absolutely. Yeah, it seems like would be, uh, he would want in this war that's going on. So I'm gonna go with a 5 on
Five.
Namor. And I think it would be cool to see him again too. I thought he was a pretty cool villain.
I
So,
liked him so much. The
or well,
flying, the way that character moves when they're flying was so fucking cool to me.
yeah,
Like it felt like he was being propelled by the wings on his feet. Like they made that look so cool. Man, we're
yeah.
gonna have to go rewatch that just for those fucking flying scenes.
And actually, I don't know that I would call him a villain necessarily because
He's just
you are
an
kind of,
antagonist.
yeah,
He's
he's
the
an
antagonist
antagonist
in that
because
film, but
they do make it make you sympathetic to why he's doing what he's
right.
doing. But they kind of do that with all of their
That's a trope at this
that's
point. That's pretty
yeah.
common. But I feel like it plays well. I mean, when the villains are relatable, it I like that.
Yeah.
But and it's also made it so that now it's refreshing when they're not relatable. Whereas it used to be the other way around. It's like, oh, this is just a bad dude doing bad dude things.
Yeah.
So now I like that the standard is that it's usually more nuanced, and when it's not nuanced, it's just like, okay, we're just having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a villain from our perspective because he wants to annihilate the surface dwellers. So as far as I'm concerned, if I exist in that world, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But as far as he's concerned, we're dumping trash all over everything that they like literally live and breathe in, and like you know what I mean. Like the Pacific Ocean is where the Great Trash Heap is. I don't know how much that's in the MCU. The MCU's version of the Great Trash Heap in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Like if I lived in the ocean, I'd be pretty upset with us.
Yeah, definitely.
But enough real world shit. Okay, so these other ones I think could potentially show up, but I included them on here because I think they might pop up in a post credit scene. Because again, even though I don't think Thaddeus Ross gets his way and the Avengers get assembled, from the comments of the both the director and the one, it seems like the main producer that was had his hands on this one. It seems like this is really about setting him up to be the leader of the Avengers, even if it doesn't directly establish the Avengers. So I feel like there's got to be some interconnection with some of these other heroes out there. And so I'll just run through these next three. I think we've got Dane Whitman, King Valkyrie, and Shang-Chi. I think all of them could either
Oh,
show up somewhere in the show or in the post credits.
okay. Well, Dean Whitman he's connected to the Eternals.
Right.
Tiamat
Yep.
is in the ocean. Um, so it's possible, and also maybe they're trying to set up the Midnight Suns or
Right.
something.
And we know that the
Um,
executive producer on this also has his hands on Blade
yeah. So
and
I
Black Panther 3, which is why I came back to Namor and Shuri as well.
hmm I maybe a 4
Four
on
on Dane.
yeah. Oh, Dane. Is it Dane?
I thought it
Dane.
was Dane.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think you're right. Whoops.
What about King Valkyrie? She already got a tiny cameo in the Marvels. The Marvels. I always call it the Marvels. I feel like the way the poster was made, it looked like there was a shiny light between the V and the E. Anyway, I digress. So King Valkyrie, the reason I bring them up is because they're a world leader at this point on the geopolitical stage. This movie is going to be all about the geopolitics of the MCU.
Yeah, it's gonna involve like everybody.
Yeah.
So maybe. Um,
And the last thing we saw from the government of the United States, as much as we don't like Secret Invasion, I found it incredibly compelling that the president is like, hey, we're going to kill all off worlders. That would get King Valkyrie's attention.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how they're going to address secret invasion, or I mean if they're
If
gonna
they just
address
brush it
it at
off.
all and just
Yeah.
pretend like it didn't happen. I don't know.
I mean, Thaddeus Ross is
But
getting inaugurated. You'd think that the previous president is at least there. Like, the previous president's usually still there on inauguration day. They hand him the keys to the White House kind of thing.
yeah. Hmm. I'll say a 2
2 out of 7
on
on
Nick
King
Fury.
Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And then Shang-Chi.
Ooh, that would be pretty cool. We haven't seen anything from Shang-Chi really since Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
So,
And the last
uh,
we saw, he was in touch with Wong. So if there's a
yeah,
big, important thing going on, at the end of the day, he could know about it.
yeah. Hmm. I maybe a 2 on this one too. I don't know.
What about any of these as a post-credit instead? Would you rate them higher as something as in a post-credit instead of during the movie?
Um, nah, I don't
Nah.
think so. I don't know.
And then these last two, I would be shocked if they're in the movie, but I think one or maybe both of them could show up post-credits, and that's Nick Fury or Doom.
Hmm. I would say Nick Fury, probably. I mean, if they are trying to reassemble the Avengers, um, he might show up for that.
Yeah,
So I would say like a 4 for
4
Nick
out of 7
Fury.
post-credit
Yeah, let's
Nick.
go with a 4. And then
Do you think we get any nod to Doom after
oh,
the
Doom.
credits?
Doom.
Or would they save that one
I
for
I feel like
Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four?
yeah,
Maybe both. Maybe all of them. I mean, maybe we get a little
well,
Doom tease
maybe.
at all three of these.
I don't know, maybe
We
Doom's
literally have.
behind all of this, but no, I don't know.
Well, even if he's not
Um
behind all of it, we could get a post-credit scene that just shows him out there observing the multiverse.
I don't think it's very likely that they'll have Doom in this, but I don't know. I would go with a 1 on this
Yeah,
on Doom.
I think that's probably right. I would love to see it. But even if we did see it, I think it would be kind of like that first shot of Thanos, except minus the head turn. You know, just literally like a green cloaked figure out there just to just to get that ball started. Because how many movies do we even have to build up to Doomsday? Isn't it just these three? And then next year is Doomsday?
Something like that, yeah.
So
That sounds
we
about right.
know almost for a fact he'll be to some extent acknowledged in Fantastic Four, as that has, I think, been all but confirmed that it's the exact same Doom from the Fantastic Four going into Doomsday, and it's those same Fantastic Four characters as well.
Yeah. I think it would be more likely that we see Doom or some sort of nod to Doom in Thunderbolts
Yeah.
than this one, Captain America.
Yeah, Thunderbolts seems like it's dealing with some crazy shit. That trailer just came out on the Super Bowl, and I was like, holy hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy shit going down there.
All right, so I'm going to recap your rankings here. Looks like, let's take the sixes out. Abomination and Bucky Barnes. You think those are the two most likely cameos?
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
Followed by maybe a little bit of Yelena, Dora Milaje, maybe Namor.
Yep.
I really hope we see Namor. Because, oh, it would be so fucking cool, because this is Captain America with wings, and Namor flies. Like, the fights that those two characters could have.
Yeah, that
Ah.
would be pretty awesome.
Especially because, like you mentioned, Namor's not necessarily a villain. He's a crafty, long-sighted thinker that is there to take care and protect his people.
Yeah.
And so I I just don't see the Telecon ignoring this giant chunk of adamantium that the surface dwellers are literally going to war over.
Yeah.
And and it makes sense that he could maybe fight, like have a little scuffle with Sam Wilson, and then end up with the way Sam Wilson is as Captain America, being very diplomatic, end up being like, hey, we can work together in this situation. And then you've got Namor and Captain America fucking flying around together with the Falcon also in the mix. Like, we've got 3 flyers, man. A boy
You
can
never
dream.
know.
Make sure you get out there, get your tickets. It's Valentine's Day. You know, it's okay to go alone, but if you can bring a date, that's fucking great. And if you can go have a great time with a friend, even better. Hell, if you can afford more than 1 ticket, why not see it multiple times? That's our plan. And then I'm going to drag some friends to it some more too. This is bound to be a great movie. It's big, big blockbuster. It's get it for the lights, get it for the sound. If you can get it in IMAX, get it all around. They've got that ScreenX thing where it's got the extra peripherals. They've got like the chairs moving. I mean, the action sequences in this, it's just going to be off the chains. I mean, just from the trailers, you can tell. Sorry, I'm getting too excited about this. Sometimes you need to do a breathing exercise and remind yourself it's just a fictional movie in a fictional world. But it's going to be such a good time. So, don't sleep on this one, guys. We'll be back here, hopefully within the week. It comes out on Friday. We'll be back talking about it after we see it, giving you our thoughts and feelings. And we look forward to hearing yours too. So shoot us a comment, and thanks for listening. A Couple of Superfans is brought to you by Marcy and Goose, an actual human couple, and listeners like you. We are not sponsored, not affiliated, and we do not run ads. The best way to support this podcast is to give us a like, follow, and share on your favorite platforms. Leave a comment, be sure to tell a friend, and don't forget to grab tickets to the next super blockbuster near you. A Couple of Superfans as a treatment for superhero fatigue is not approved by the FDA. Side effects may include overexcitement for fictional stories, forgetting about the world's woes, spending extra on IMAX and concessions, closed ears to haters, and, in the most extreme cases, drowning all your feeds in superhero content. Thanks a billion for the listen. Keep it vibin' super out there.